She was not human. She was tall, at least 6 feet. Her skin had a faint silver-blue tint, smooth like polished metal, but clearly organic. Her eyes glowed softly, a deep violet color that seemed to pierce through the darkness. She wore a sleek, dark suit that looked both armored and flexible. And on her hip, a strange device, something between a weapon and a communicator, rested within easy reach. She stared at him, unblinking. Then she spoke. "Ethan Carter." Her voice was calm, but there was an urgency beneath it. Ethan tightened his grip on the doorframe. "Who's asking?" The woman glanced around as if checking for unseen threats. Then she met his gaze again. "My name is Captain Zayara of the Veralis Dominion. I have an offer for you. One you cannot refuse." Ethan frowned. "Veralis Dominion? Never heard of it. And I'm not interested in whatever this is." He started to close the door. "You should be," she said quickly, stepping forward, "because this concerns your entire species." Something in her tone made Ethan hesitate. He studied her again, looking for deception, for some sign that this was a prank or a dream. But everything about her, her stance, her expression, even the way she breathed, felt real. And more than that, she was serious. Ethan sighed and stepped back. "Fine. You've got 5 minutes." Zayara nodded and entered. Inside, Ethan led her to the living room, where books and mechanical parts cluttered the shelves and table. He gestured to a chair, but she remained standing. "All right," he said, crossing his arms. "Start talking." Zayara took a slow breath. Humans believe they are a young species, just beginning to explore the stars. That is a lie. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me," she continued, her voice steady. "Your kind was once among the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. You had fleets, colonies, warriors who could shake entire empires. But then, something happened. Your history was erased. Your technology was taken. And the rest of the galaxy was ordered to leave Earth untouched, to let you forget who you were." Ethan stared at her. "That's ridiculous." Zayara tilted her head slightly. "Is it? Think about it, Ethan. Humans adapt faster than any other species. You advance in centuries while others take millennia. You survive conditions that would kill most life forms. And yet, your world is limited to simple rockets and outdated technology, while others travel between stars." Ethan opened his mouth to argue, but stopped. She wasn't wrong. Humanity had advanced unnaturally fast, yet they still struggled with space travel while rumors of extraterrestrial life remained unproven. It never made sense. "Let's say, for a moment, I believe you," he said carefully. "Why are you telling me this? Why come to me?" Zayara stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Because I found something, a relic from the past, and only a human can unlock it." She reached into her suit and pulled out a small device, smooth, metallic, with faint symbols etched into its surface. When she pressed it into Ethan's hand, something happened. The device hummed. A faint glow pulsed beneath his fingertips. Lines of light spread across its surface, shifting like living veins. Zayara watched, satisfied. "It recognizes you." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "What is this?" "Proof," she said. "Proof that everything I've told you is true." Before he could respond, a sudden alarm blared from the device on her wrist. Zayara's expression hardened. "They found me." Ethan tensed. "Who?" She looked up, her glowing violet eyes filled with urgency. "The ones who don't want you to remember." And then, outside, headlights. Multiple. A deep hum filled the air, not from cars, but something heavier, something that didn't belong on Earth. Ethan swallowed hard. He had no idea what he had just stepped into, but something told him his life would never be the same again. front door exploded. A blast of blue energy shattered the wooden frame, sending debris flying into the room. Ethan stumbled back, coughing from the smoke and dust. Silhouettes stepped through the ruined entrance, their shapes dark against the bright glow outside. 3 figures entered. They were humanoid, but their movements were too perfect, too synchronized, like machines disguised as men. Their skin was smooth, metallic, and their eyes glowed a cold, unnatural white. They wore black armor with no markings, no insignias. The leading figure raised its hand. Its fingers shifted, transforming into a sleek weapon aimed directly at Ethan. "Surrender the artifact," it said in a mechanical voice. And the woman. Ziyara didn't wait. She pulled a sleek silver device from her belt and fired. A pulse of red energy shot across the room, striking one of the intruders in the chest. The figure staggered but didn't fall. Its armor glowed where the blast had hit, absorbing the impact. Ethan didn't have time to think. His instincts kicked in. He grabbed the closest thing to him, a metal wrench from the table, and threw it at the attacker's head. The wrench bounced harmlessly off the metallic skull. The figure turned its glowing white eyes toward Ethan. Primitive. Before it could fire, Ziyara grabbed Ethan and pressed something on her wrist. The air around them shimmered, and in an instant, the world twisted. A flash of light, a rush of air, and then silence. They were no longer in his house. Ethan gasped. His surroundings had changed. Instead of his living room, he was now inside a dimly lit metallic chamber. The walls were smooth, curved, and lined with glowing blue symbols. The air smelled clean, but there was a strange energy in it, like static before a storm. He turned to Ziyara. "What just happened?" She pressed a panel on the wall, her expression tense. "Teleportation. Short range. I had to get us out before they took you." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, trying to steady his breathing. "Where are we?" Ziyara stepped forward and placed a hand on the control panel. A window opened in the wall, revealing the outside. Ethan's breath caught. They were no longer on Earth. Outside the window, the planet hung below them, blue and white, spinning peacefully in space. Stars stretched in all directions, and beyond distant lights flickered like silent beacons in the void. Ethan's legs almost gave out. He grabbed the edge of a console to steady himself. You took me to space." Ziyara nodded. "You were no longer safe on Earth. They would have erased your existence." Ethan exhaled sharply. "And who exactly are they?" Ziyara's expression darkened. "The ones who keep your species from knowing the truth. The Silent Hand. The secret humanity never knew." Ethan sat down, his mind racing. Nothing made sense anymore. He had spent his whole life believing humans were just beginning their journey into the stars. But now, "Start from the beginning," he said. Ziyara studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Humans were once one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. You built cities among the stars. You had ships that could cross the void in seconds. You were feared and respected." She turned to a control panel and tapped a few buttons. The screen lit up, displaying an ancient human battleship, massive, sleek, and deadly. It dwarfed the largest vessels Ethan had ever seen. "Then something changed," she continued. "The other species feared your growth. They believed that if humans continued expanding, nothing would stop them from controlling everything. So they formed an alliance." Ethan narrowed his eyes. "A war?" Ziyara nodded. "A secret war, one that humanity never even knew it lost." She pressed another button, and the screen shifted to show something darker. A massive battle in space, with human ships fighting against an overwhelming alien force. Explosions, debris, and destruction filled the scene. But something was wrong. The human fleet wasn't just fighting. if waiting for him. He swallowed. What is this thing? Ziyara hesitated. Then she spoke carefully. It's a key. Ethan frowned. A key to what? She met his gaze. To waking up the sleeping giant. Ethan didn't know what that meant, but he had the feeling. His life had only just begun. And the galaxy was about to change forever. Ethan sat frozen, staring at the glowing device in his hand. The weight of Ziyara's words pressed down on him. A key. A key to what? To his past. To humanity's forgotten power. He wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but a loud warning alarm blared through the ship. Ziyara's eyes darkened. She moved quickly to the control panel, fingers flying over glowing buttons. The holographic display in front of her flickered to life, showing red blinking dots moving toward them. They're tracking us. Ethan stood up. Who? The silent hand. Ziyara's jaw tightened. They're enforcers. They never let anyone escape. Ethan glanced at the screen. The red dots were moving fast, closing in on their position. His heart pounded. He might not know much about space battles, but one thing was clear. They were running out of time. Can't we just jump to hyperspace or something? Asterisk, he asked. Ziyara shot him a sharp look. I would have done that already if it were that simple. This ship is old, and its systems are still booting up from the emergency teleport. We have one chance. We outrun them. Ethan frowned. And if we don't? Ziyara didn't answer. Instead, she grabbed his wrist and pulled him toward the ship's co-pilot seat. Strap in, she ordered. This is going to get rough. The chase begins. The moment Ethan secured himself, Ziyara pushed forward on the controls. The ship's engines roared to life, shaking the cabin as it surged forward into space. Stars stretched into streaks outside the window as they accelerated. But their pursuers were gaining on them. Ethan's screen displayed their enemies, sleek black ships, moving with terrifying precision. They weren't normal fighters. Their designs were smooth, curved, and completely silent on sensors. Stealth ships. The silent hand wasn't sending just anyone. They were sending assassins. Incoming fire, Ziyara shouted. Ethan barely had time to react before blue energy blasts streaked past the ship, missing them by inches. The entire craft shook violently. Warning lights flickered. They're trying to disable us, Ziyara growled, adjusting course. They want us alive. Ethan didn't like the way she said that. He gripped the edges of his seat. Tell me there are weapons on this thing. Ziyara smirked. Of course, but you're the one who's going to use them. Ethan blinked. Me? She pressed a button, and a holographic targeting system appeared in front of Ethan. Controls shifted under his hands, transforming into a weapons console. You said you were an engineer. Time to prove it, Ziyara said. Ethan swallowed hard. I build machines, not fire space guns. Today, you do both. Before he could argue, another barrage of energy blasts rocked the ship. Red warning lights flared. Ethan cursed and grabbed the controls. The system was complex, but something about it felt familiar. Like muscle memory he didn't know he had. As the enemy ships moved, his targeting display adjusted automatically, predicting their movements. Instinct took over. He fired. A pulse of white-hot plasma shot from their ship, streaking through the void. One of the enemy fighters tried to dodge, but Ethan had anticipated it. The blast struck directly in its engines. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash of fire. Ziyara whistled. Not bad, Earthman. Ethan's hand shook, but he felt something strange. Excitement. A part of him was terrified, but another part. It felt like he was meant for this. A desperate plan. 2 enemy ships remained. They were adjusting tactics, moving faster, trying to flank them. Ziyara muttered a curse. We won't make it to hyperspace at this rate. We need another way out. Ethan scanned the controls, thinking fast. What if we use that gas giant over there? controls was tight as they whipped around the planet's gravity, gaining speed. The ship slingshot forward, pulling away from their last pursuer. The enemy pilot realized too late. It tried to pull up, but the planet's gravity dragged it down. Ethan watched as the final enemy ship vanished into the stormy clouds below, lost forever. Ziyara pulled the ship back into open space. The turbulence faded. The alarms quieted. Silence returned. They had won. A new destination. Ethan exhaled, his body still shaking. That was insane. Ziyara smirked. Welcome to life outside Earth. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. He had just fought in a space battle. He had just destroyed ships that shouldn't even exist. And somehow, it felt right. He turned to Ziyara. Where are we going now? She pulled up a star map. A blinking dot appeared, deep in uncharted space. To an ancient human outpost, a place untouched for centuries. Ethan stared at the glowing map. He had no idea what lay ahead, but one thing was clear. This was just the beginning. Ethan stared at the glowing map. A single blinking dot marked their next destination, an ancient human outpost, hidden deep in uncharted space. He exhaled. How do you know it's still there? Ziyara kept her eyes on the star map. Because the silent hand fears it. That answer didn't comfort him. The ship's controls beeped as Ziyara entered new coordinates. The engines rumbled, and within moments, they jumped into faster-than-light travel. Stars stretched into streaks as they surged forward. Ethan leaned back in his seat, his heart still pounding from the recent battle. He had fought in space, destroyed enemy ships, and barely escaped death. Everything was happening too fast, but strangely, he felt alive. Ziyara glanced at him. You handled yourself well back there. Ethan smirked. For a guy who just learned aliens existed. Ziyara chuckled. Exactly. Then her expression grew serious. But this is just the beginning. The silent hand won't stop hunting you. Ethan frowned. Why me? I'm just some engineer from Earth. Ziyara studied him for a moment. Because that artifact you hold, the key, is meant for you. It only reacts to human DNA. And not just any human, but one with the potential to awaken what was lost. Ethan looked down at the small glowing device in his hand. It pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat. But what did it unlock? Arrival at the outpost. After a few hours of travel, the ship's alert system chimed. Exiting hyperspace in 10 seconds, Ziyara announced. Ethan straightened in his seat as the stars around them snapped back into place. Before them, a massive structure floated in the darkness, a forgotten relic from another time. The human outpost. It was enormous, stretching for miles, made of sleek black metal. Large docking platforms extended from its sides, though most of them were covered in debris. The station's lights were mostly dark, except for a few flickering beacons. It looked abandoned. Ethan stared in awe. This place, humans built this. Ziyara nodded. Thousands of years ago. Before the war. Before your history was erased. She guided the ship toward a docking bay. The metal doors, though ancient, still responded to their approach. They slowly slid open, revealing a landing platform inside. As the ship touched down, Ethan felt a chill run through him. Something was waiting for them inside. The station awakens. The air inside the outpost was cold and stale, but still breathable. The walls were covered in dust, and the halls were eerily silent. Ethan and Ziyara stepped forward cautiously, their footsteps echoing. Ziyara scanned the area. The power core is still functional. We need to activate it fully. Ethan nodded, gripping the artifact tightly. Where do we start? Ziyara pointed toward a large doorway ahead. The command center is this way. Descendant has returned, one of them murmured. Ethan blinked. Last descendant. The lead machine motioned toward the console at the center of the room. Place the key into the interface. Awaken the station. Ethan swallowed hard. His heart pounded as he stepped forward. Was this really happening? Was he really about to unlock something lost for centuries? He reached out and placed the artifact onto the console. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a deep hum filled the air. Lights flickered on all around them. The machines straightened, their bodies growing more active. Screens lit up, displaying old data, maps of ancient human territories. And then, a holographic figure appeared in front of Ethan. A man, dressed in an old military uniform. His face was familiar, though Ethan had never seen him before. The hologram's eyes locked onto Ethan. "You have awakened the last hope of humanity," the figure said. "The war was lost, but the battle is not over. The Silent Hand took everything from us, but they failed to destroy our spirit." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. The hologram continued. "You are the key. And now, it is time for you to reclaim what was stolen." The room trembled as deeper sections of the station powered up. Ancient weapon systems activated, and maps displayed hidden human strongholds scattered across the galaxy. Ethan exchanged a glance with Ziyara. Everything was about to change. The Silent Hand is watching. But in the darkness of space, far beyond the station, a shadow moved. A sleek black ship hovered in the distance, its sensors locked onto the outpost. Inside, a figure watched through a glowing screen. The Silent Hand had found them, and they were already preparing to strike. Ethan stood frozen as the holographic figure stared at him. The man's eyes were sharp, filled with purpose and authority. Even though he was just an image from the past, his presence felt real. "You are the key," the hologram repeated. "And now, it is time for you to reclaim what was stolen." Ethan's heart pounded. What does that mean? What am I supposed to do? The hologram lifted a hand, and a detailed map of the galaxy appeared in the air. Several red marks glowed on different planets. "These are the last strongholds of humanity," the figure explained. "Before the Silent Hand erased our history, our ancestors hid powerful technology in these places. They contain weapons, knowledge, and the secrets of our lost empire." Ziyara's eyes widened. "You mean, the old human empire wasn't just a myth?" The hologram nodded. "It was real, and it was powerful. But the Silent Hand destroyed it. They feared what we could become." Ethan clenched his fists. "And now they're hunting me, because they think I can bring it all back." The hologram's gaze did not waver. "Can you?" Ethan hesitated. He was just an engineer, a man who had spent his life fixing machines on Earth. How was he supposed to fight an ancient enemy? But before he could answer, an alarm blared through the station. "Warning. Unidentified ships detected." Ziyara spun toward the control panel. "It's them. The Silent Hand found us." Ethan's stomach dropped. They were out of time. The attack begins. Outside, the Silent Hand fleet emerged from the shadows of space. Dozens of black warships surrounded the outpost, their sleek, curved designs blending with the void. These weren't ordinary fighters. These were Enforcer-class ships, built for one purpose: eliminate threats before they could rise. Inside the station, red warning lights flashed. The old outpost's systems, though reactivated, were still weak after centuries of inactivity. Ziyara's fingers flew across the controls. "Shields are too low. We can't take a direct hit." Ethan rushed to the weapons console. His hands trembled as he scanned the controls. The station had defense turrets, but most were offline. Only a few were operational. The speakers crackled, and a cold voice filled the room. main cannon's power core was located deep in the station, in a massive control chamber filled with ancient technology. Ethan's mind worked fast. The systems were old, but familiar. It was like looking at blueprints from a time long forgotten. Yet somehow he understood them. Ziara started the power sequence. "It'll take a few minutes to charge." Ethan nodded. "I'll hold them off." Ziara looked at him. "You sure?" Ethan smirked. "Not really. But I don't see any other option." She hesitated, then tossed him a plasma rifle from the weapons rack. "Don't die, Earthman." Ethan gripped the weapon and ran toward the station's outer defenses, holding the line. The silent hand had breached the station. Their black armored soldiers moved with deadly precision, their weapons humming with energy. They advanced through the halls, their glowing visors scanning for targets. Ethan ducked behind cover as a blast of plasma hit the wall near him. "Here goes nothing," he muttered. He popped out of cover and fired. The plasma bolt struck an enemy soldier in the chest, sending him crashing to the ground. The others reacted instantly, shifting into defensive positions. Ethan gritted his teeth. These weren't just mercenaries. They were trained killers. And he was just one man. But then, the station fought back. The old defense turrets flickered to life, turning their guns on the intruders. Automated cannons blasted enemy forces, forcing them to retreat. Ziara's voice crackled through the comms. "The cannon is almost ready. Just hold them off a little longer." Ethan ducked as another explosion rocked the station. He turned and saw more soldiers pouring in. His heart raced. He couldn't stop them all. Then a shadow moved beside him. A mechanical voice spoke. "The last descendant will not fall today." Ethan looked up and saw the ancient battle droids standing beside him, their weapons aimed forward. The station's old guardians had awoken, and they were ready to fight. The final shot. Inside the command center, Ziara slammed her hand down on the final control. The main cannon powered up. Outside the station, the Silent Hand fleet was preparing to destroy them. Their weapons charged, energy humming in the vacuum of space. But before they could fire, a massive beam of white-hot energy erupted from the outpost. It tore through space, slicing through enemy warships like paper. Several ships exploded instantly, their debris scattering into the void. The remaining fleet hesitated, then realizing they had lost the advantage. They retreated. Inside the station, Ethan slumped against the wall, breathing heavily. The battle droid stood beside him, silent once more. Ziara's voice came through the comms. "We did it." Ethan let out a breath. "Yeah, but they'll be back." Ziara's voice was firm. "Then next time, we'll be ready." Ethan looked down at the glowing artifact in his hand. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. Ethan sat on the cold metal floor of the outpost, breathing heavily. His hands trembled as he gripped the plasma rifle. The battle was over, but his heart was still racing. Ziara stood nearby, scanning the control panels. The Silent Hand had retreated, but they wouldn't stay away for long. They would return, with more ships, more soldiers, and even deadlier weapons. The station's old battle droids stood silently, waiting for their next command. Their rusted armor showed their age, but they had proven their strength in the fight. Ethan wiped sweat from his forehead. "We won today, but how long until they come back?" Ziara sighed. "Not long. The Silent Hand never forgets." Ethan clenched his fists. He was tired of running. He had been dragged into a war he never knew existed, but now he couldn't walk away. Humanity had been erased from history, and somehow he held the key to bringing it back. He looked down at the small glowing artifact in his hand. It still pulsed softly, as if alive. Ethan exhaled. The hologram said there are other human strongholds out there. The ship hummed as it left the outpost behind, diving into faster-than-light travel. Ethan sat in the cockpit, staring out at the endless darkness of space. He still couldn't believe how much had changed in just a few days. A week ago, he was just an engineer on Earth. Now, he was being hunted by a powerful alien empire. Ziyara sat beside him, her eyes focused on the navigation screen. The vault is on an old colony world. If the Silent Hand didn't find it, it might still be intact. Ethan nodded. And if they did? Ziyara glanced at him. Then we'll be walking into a graveyard. The ship jolted slightly as they dropped out of hyperspace. Before them, a massive blue planet stretched across the stars. Lush green continents covered its surface, with massive rivers winding through the land. It looked untouched. Ethan stared in awe. This place looks beautiful. Ziyara checked the sensors. No signs of civilization. If there were humans here, they're long gone. Ethan felt a strange sadness settle in his chest. Another piece of his people's history, lost to time. But maybe not forever. Ziyara guided the ship toward the surface, weaving through thick white clouds before landing in a vast jungle. Massive trees stretched toward the sky, their leaves glowing faintly with bioluminescence. Strange, bird-like creatures flew between the branches, watching the newcomers with curious eyes. Ethan stepped onto the soft ground, feeling the cool air against his skin. "Where do we start?" he asked. Ziyara checked her wrist device. The vault is underground, beneath the ruins of an ancient city. If the Silent Hand never found it, it should still be sealed. Ethan nodded. Then let's move. The Forgotten City. After hours of walking, they found it. A massive stone city, covered in thick vines and moss, stood silently in the jungle. Towering skyscrapers, now broken and decayed, reached toward the sky like the bones of a forgotten civilization. Ethan felt a deep sense of loss as he stepped through the ruins. People lived here, he muttered. Families, engineers, scientists. Ziyara nodded. And now it's just another graveyard. But then something hummed beneath their feet. Ethan froze. Did you hear that? Ziyara's eyes widened. The vault. It's waking up. A deep rumbling sound shook the ground as part of the stone floor collapsed inward, revealing the hidden passageway beneath. A faint blue light glowed from the darkness below. Ethan swallowed hard. I guess that's our way in. Ziyara smirked. Looks like it. They stepped forward, descending into the vault. The last warning. The underground chamber was massive, stretching far beyond what the eye could see. Strange metal pillars stood in rows, covered in symbols Ethan didn't recognize. In the center of the room, a massive cylindrical device hummed softly, its surface glowing with an ancient energy. Ethan's heart pounded. This was it. This was what they came for. He stepped forward, reaching out to touch the glowing device. But then, a deep mechanical voice echoed through the chamber. Stop. Ethan froze. From the shadows, a figure appeared. Not a machine, but a holographic guardian. It was a woman, dressed in ancient armor, her eyes burning with intensity. You have entered the last sanctuary of the human empire, she said. But before you go any further, you must answer one question. Ethan swallowed. What question? The holographic woman stared deep into his soul. Are you ready to lead a war? Silence filled the chamber. Ethan looked at Ziyara, his mind racing. A war? Was that what this was all about? The Silent Hand had tried to erase humanity's past. But deep beneath this forgotten city, something remained. Something so powerful, so dangerous, that even after all these years, it still waited for a true leader. Ethan took a deep breath. He knew what his answer would be. capable of. Ziyara grinned. I like the way you think. She activated the ship's weapons. Energy cannons locked on to the enemy fleet. The silent handships fired first. A storm of plasma bolts screamed through space toward them. But the Leviathan's shields flared to life, absorbing the blasts with ease. Ethan felt a rush of power. Fire, he commanded. The Leviathan's weapons unleashed a storm of destruction. Massive energy beams tore through the Silent Hand's warships, slicing them apart in seconds. Explosions filled the void as the enemy fleet collapsed in chaos. The Silent Hand had never faced human technology like this. They had erased humanity's history, but they had never faced its full power. And now, they were losing. The remaining ships turned and fled, vanishing into hyperspace. Ethan took a deep breath. It was over. For now, the dawn of a new age. As the Leviathan floated in space, Ethan stared at the stars. For the first time, he felt something new. Hope. Ziyara stepped beside him. You did it. You just destroyed a Silent Hand fleet with a single ship. Ethan exhaled. No, we did it. He looked at the ancient vessel around him. The last warship of the human empire. The Silent Hand thought they had erased his people. They thought humanity was nothing but a memory. But now, the galaxy would learn the truth. Humanity was not extinct. Humanity was rising. Ethan clenched his fists. This is just the beginning. Ziyara smirked. So what now, Earthman? Ethan looked out at the endless stars. There were more lost human strongholds to find, more secrets to uncover. And the Silent Hand would be back. But this time, they wouldn't be hunting the last human. They would be running from him. Ethan turned, stepping toward the ship's controls. Now, we take back everything they stole from us. The Leviathan's engines roared, and the war to reclaim humanity's future had begun.